Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of American Algebra Warriors. Yes, I am Mr. Fuller, and today I'm going to teach you a lesson on percents from Chapter 2, Section 9. Now, when we do percent problems, there are two basic methods. One is called the percent proportion method that you see in number 1A, and the other is called the percent equation method that you see in number 1B. I'm going to show you how to use both of these methods to do these first three problems. So let's start with number 1. What percent of 50 is 42? Now, the percent proportion equation is what you, if you've heard of this before, what you've been taught. The equation goes something like this: is over of equals percent over 100. So when you represent the problem, you look for the word is, you look for the word of, you look for the word percent or the percent symbol, and you put those numbers in those spots. So as I read the question, after the word is, I see 42, so I put 42 in the same place as the word is in the proportion. The number following of is 50, so 50 is the number that goes in the place of. Then we have equals percent over 100. The question says, what percent? I don't have that number, so that's my x. So is over of equals percent over 100. 42 over 50 equals x over 100. And then, as you know, we've learned to solve proportions by using cross products. So 42 times 100 would equal 50 times x. We have used our cross products to solve. So 42 times 100, that's 4200. 50 times x is 50x. So now we can solve by dividing each side by 50. So if we need to, we call up our calculators and we do 4200 divided by 50. So 4200 divided by 50 gives me value of 84. So that is my missing percent. The question said what percent, so the answer is 84%. Now, I really wish I had room to write that sentence in there. I would say 42 is 84% of 50, and then circle the 84 because that's the answer. Now, what would this look like if we did it in the percent equation method? In the percent equation method, you just translate the words directly into math symbols the way you see them. So we start with what percent, that's our x, what percent of means multiply, so what percent of x times 50, what percent of 50 is 42. Is translates to equal, and then we have the number 42. So you can see it's quite a bit simpler, and to solve, all we do is divide each side by 50. So x will be whatever 42 divided by 50 is. So I grab my calculator, 42 divided by 50 gives me 0.84. So x equals 0.84 or 84%. So 42 is 84% of 50. So that's a really good answer to the question. The question was a sentence, what percent of 50 is 42? My answer is 42 is 84% of 50. Let's look at problem number 2. 125% of what number is 17.5? Looking for the word is to do the percent proportion method, I find 17.5 follows the word is. So 17.5 goes on the top left. Of, following that, says what number? So that's my x. Is over of 17.5 over what equals, and then I have 125%. So my percent number is 125, and that goes over 100. Is over of equals percent over 100. So now when I use my cross products, 17.5 times 100, that's not right. 17.5 times 100 equals 125 times x. So to solve this, what I need to do is divide both sides by 125. So x will be equal to 17.5 times 100 divided by 125. So I'm going to grab my calculator and I'm going to do 17.5 times 100, and then I'm going to get that answer and divide by 125. And that gives me an answer of 14. So that means x equals 14. So now if I wrote a sentence, 125% of 14 is 17.5. So circling the 14 because that was the missing number that we found. If we did this by the percent equation method, we would translate the words directly into math symbols. So 125% would become 1.25. 100% would be 1, so this is more than 100%, so it would be 1.25. Of means to multiply, so 125% times what number, that would be our x, is 17.5. That's a multiply, not a subtract there. So since x is multiplied by 1.25, we can solve by dividing by 1.25. And then x, or the answer to x, will be whatever 17.5 divided by 1.25 is. So 17.5 divided by 1.25 gives me 14. So x equals 14, and I can use the same sentence for the answer. So personally, I prefer the percent equation method because you can see that there's typically a lot less writing, a lot less work to show, and I find it quite easy to translate the words into math symbols. You're welcome to use either one. As far as I'm concerned, both of them are perfectly appropriate and they work well in percent problems. Let's try example 3. Why don't you pause the video, try problem number 3 on your own, see what you come up with, and when you're ready, restart the video and compare your answer to mine. So, did you get 28 for your answer? 28 is 35% of 80. You can see on the left in blue how I've done the percent proportion method, and on the right in green I've used the percent equation method. Finally, example 4. A family sells a car to a dealership for 60% less than they paid for it. They paid $9,000 for the car. For what price did they sell the car? Well, we've got a percent, 60%, and we've got a number, 9,000. What do we need to do? Well, it feels like we need to find 60% of 9,000. That will be the amount less than 9,000 that they paid for it. They paid 9,000. So if we can find 60% of 9,000, that will be how much less they sold it to the dealership than what they bought it for. So it's kind of like we're being asked, what is 60% of $9,000? So if I use the equation method, I would translate that into what is 60% of 9,000. So I need to multiply 9,000 by 0.6. I don't really need a calculator to do that. I can tell you it's going to be $5,400. So now what's the meaning of this $5,400? Well, that's how much less than that's 60% of 9,000. So they sold it back to the dealership for this much less than the 9,000. So we're going to need to take the $9,000 and subtract 5,400 to see how much they got for it. So 0 minus 0 gives me 0, and then I have to borrow. 10 minus 4 gives me 6. 8 minus 5 gives me 3. So the question said, for what price did they sell the car? They sold the car. They sold the car for $3,600. That's 60% less than they paid for it. Another way to do the problem might be to say, well, you know, if they got 60% less for it than they paid for it, then they only got 40% of what they paid. So we could have found 40% of 9,000 and said, okay, that's what they got for it. And 40% of $9,000 is $3,600. So there's more than one way to get to that answer. As far as practice in this lesson goes, you have bookwork on page 141. Remember to complete 9 to 29 odd, plus 47, 49, 51, and 53. You will need to show your teacher all of those in order to have your packet cleared to take the mastery quiz. Good luck. Do your best. Forget the rest. Bye for now.